It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought us to the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained by rational principles the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the powerful Kingdom of England and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and he explained it in ways that were understandable to the people, to all of the people. A great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we are able to reason, we're able to talk to each other, we're able to listen to each other, and we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it. We're here with the Chief of Staff to the President of the United States, Mark Meadows. Just a little while ago, member of Congress and probably one of the most important for the defense of the President and many other things. So it's a real honor for me to be with him and to get a chance to ask him a few questions.
Mayor, it's always great to be with you. Thanks for always leading the charge. So it's good to be with you.
And thank you for taking on this responsibility at a very difficult time. You sure didn't get a honeymoon when you came in.
No, I came in. We had a global pandemic. We have economic meltdown.
Laugh.
You name it, we've had it. But the president's doing well, and he's continuing to fight. And as you know, he's a real fighter, and he's not going to give up.
I think when it gets worse, he gets better.
He does.
I shouldn't say that, but I think that's the case.
Well, he's a counter puncher, but he's also a puncher.
Thank God we have somebody like that.
Well, we've got to have that because what happens, the forgotten man and woman, you know it all too well, the forgotten man and woman, the people that are tuning in right now, they're saying, well, what about me? How is my voice heard in Washington, D.C.? And I can tell you in one place it's heard. It's in an Oval Office not too far from here.
All the decisions are made that way.
Yeah,
that's
you're
what
exactly
I found.
Right.
So what about this new Russia hoax too? Seems like the same cast of characters. You got a couple of felons who are willing to leak very sensitive, confidential information that seems to be disputed at a minimum. And then you got the New York Times willing to take the fruits of a felony and publish it. All of a sudden, any further inquiry is blown.
Right.
Possibly sources, methods, people's lives. They don't give a damn. As long as they can somehow hurt President Trump.
Yeah. Well, we know that a crime was perpetrated. It's now up to us to make sure that we find out who that is. But I think you're right. It's Russia 2.0 or 3.0, and there will be more because what happens is those who want to fight against the president know that there's a New York Times reporter that's all too willing to allow them to tell only a little bit of the story. And this one is even worse than anything we could ever imagine because not only does it put sources and methods at risk, but in terms of going after the Russians, if you wanted to go after them, which we have been looking at this very
I can see that. Just read.
But now, I'm sure there were paper shredders and all kinds of stuff, if indeed there was something, which you mentioned it, you teased it just a little bit there. There really wasn't anything. We don't have any intelligence that would support the reporting that the New York Times put out. They put out one part of it, but it was like putting out one chapter in a book. They forgot the conclusion and they forgot the final chapter.
So if you were these deep state felons or the Times and you were really interested in finding out, did the Russians or someone else do this?
Right.
You would not leak the information.
No, you wouldn't leak it. And
you'd wait and let it get investigated fully and then find out.
You're right.
But who cares about the truth?
Yeah, well, and that's the problem is whoever leaked this either was intentionally trying to harm the president, which we see all too often, or they were not happy with the president's policies. So there's those two lines of thinking. And one of those policies is it's time to get out of Afghanistan. It's time to end endless wars. That this president has been very vocal, as you know, on that.
Sure, he explained that all to the American people when he got elected. That was his intention.
And that's why he got elected, because
course.
he explained it. And when you see that, when you see where this president is coming from on that, the vast majority of Americans support that. They don't even understand why we're in Afghanistan, and they figure that after we've been there more than a decade and we haven't accomplished our mission, why are we continuing to be there? But just a few blocks from here, in a 5-sided building known as the Pentagon,
right,
there's a whole lot of people that make a lot of money based on the fact that we need to have these endless wars. And this president said enough is enough. It's the American taxpayer dollar. It's time to come home.
And a few of our misguided Republicans who want to go to war every other day are on that side too, which is really a shame.
Well, they are, but I think they also bit on a New York Times story that, quite frankly, they didn't do their due diligence. So some of these people that came in, I've done a briefing with a few of them and shared the other side of the story, and then all of a sudden they're saying they agree with you. You know, whoever leaked this, one, it was a crime. They shouldn't have done it. But the other is they didn't even leak the whole story.
But Mark, you understand this better than most because of all your experience in Congress. Why is it that the Democrats constantly stay together? They can have anti-Semitic statements of the worst kind.
Right.
They can have destruction of statues of Lincoln and Grant. Say nothing.
Right.
They can have those three crazy people, AOC and her friend, say the craziest things, thing. You know, end airplanes.
Right.
And they keep their mouth shut.
Yeah.
If there's one little thing that isn't even resolved yet, and there's a question, we'll get a bunch of Republicans that run away. I mean, on this one, I have to tell you, Marco Rubio gave the greatest statement of all.
Yeah.
He basically said this is way too early for anybody to be commenting.
Yeah.
And the real story here is somebody committed a serious crime.
Well, and Senator Rubio is exactly right. Let me just tell you, he's seen what I've had the privilege of seeing and what others have seen. And you know what? This is not his first or second rodeo. He's on the Intel Committee. He's the chairman of the Intel Committee, and he knows how dangerous this kind of thing is. And so I applaud Senator Rubio for not only speaking out, but for calling it what it is, a crime.
Well, let's hope we find the people who did it finally.
Right.
And get it and
well,
get some kind of punishment that deter it.
Well, we need to make sure that people go to jail, and people, we've found a few leakers. They're no longer working for the federal government, but this one is more serious than that.
Go to jail. See, in New York, nobody goes to jail anymore. And anybody who goes to jail, the mayor and the governor release them.
Yeah, they're just released to an autonomous zone.
Unless they're a Republican.
Yeah. Well, and therein is the problem, is we need to have equal justice under the law.
Boy, the double standard.
There's a double standard.
You know it.
Yeah.
You know it.
And this president knows it. You know it. The American people know it. They see the two standards. They see the fact that there's still over 30,000 emails that we never did find, and somehow that was justified. It's just, listen, what I will say is this. We're determined to get to the bottom of it.
Good.
We do know that referring them for criminal prosecution is something that's already happened, and they're serious about the investigation.
Good.
Secretary Esper's looking at it, DOJ's looking at it, and others.
I think this would be a convenient time to take a short break. When your life is in chaos, your home is your safe haven, your most valuable asset. Imagine losing your home to some online scammer. In an instant, you have no place to live, and your home, your security, your nest egg in an emergency isn't yours anymore. Is this even possible? In a word, yes. It's called home title theft, and the FBI calls it one of the fastest growing crimes. My friends at Home Title Lock demonstrated how quickly and easily online scammers can steal our homes. This is a legal title to a home in California. All home titles, yours and mine, are vulnerable. They're kept online, where thieves, foreign and domestic, hunt them. They simply print your home's title, forge your signature, stating you sold your home, put a fake notary seal on it, and refile it as the new owner. In an instant, your home is theirs. Then they can borrow against it, and you'd be responsible for the payments. Or they could try to evict you. I'm serious. Your bank doesn't cover you, and neither does your homeowner's insurance. Home Title Lock does. For pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual firewall around your home's title. If some cyber thief tampers with your home's title, they're on it. helping to shut it down before you lose your home. Here's what I want you to do. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim and don't know it. You will receive 30 days of free home title lock protection using the promo code Rudy. You need to do this now. Get 30 days of free protection with promo code Rudy at HomeTitleLock.com. Welcome back to our interview with the Chief of Staff to the President of the United States, Mark Meadows. Now, I've got to ask you about the following.
Yeah.
We have a few places, some places where COVID-19, there are more people that are getting it, some places where it's gone down. But the fact is, it's very different than before.
Right.
We now have experience with it. We know it only affects a certain portion of the population.
That's right.
Another portion of the population virtually is safe and free of it.
Right.
Number two, we now have some medicines that have been 95% effective in dealing with it.
Right.
Why is Dr. Fauci scaring us so much?
You know, Dr. Fauci, some call him Dr. Gloom, and yet, here's the thing: is they're paid to show a worst-case scenario to hopefully get everybody where they're on alert. We're past the I'm on alert stage. Here's what we do know. We do know that if you're under 80 years of age, the chances of dying from COVID-19, or what I call the China virus.
Please, thank you.
If you're,
okay.
The chances of you
Amended.
dying from the China virus is really slim. Unless you have 3 comorbidities. So it means you got to be diabetic, overweight, hypertension, a number of things. And even with that, as we work down, young people, there are greater chances of dying from other things than the China virus. And so getting that message out, and yet when we're in this pandemic and this catastrophic time, it's important that we deal with the facts and not just with fear. And the American people are starting to understand that, but yet each and every day we have on TV saying,
sure.
Worry, worry, worry. Obviously, New York was harder hit as a city.
But now it's virtually
right.
It's totally under control, but we're still shut down to a large extent.
Well, it is.
Because I think they like to have us shut down.
Here's what we need to open up. We need to open up the schools and universities. Let me just tell you, that population there is at such a minimal risk compared to other things, compared to death by the flu, compared to a number of other risks associated with it. We need to open up the schools. We need to open up businesses. And at the end of the day, take our precautions, be safe, but our economy can't stand this. And I can tell you that the president acted decisively to stop really tens of thousands of deaths because he acted very quickly. But he also acted very decisively in terms of the economy. I can tell you there were a few days in my first 100 days where I looked at the economic numbers and what was happening, and we had the chance to have a prolonged depression, and now the news is certainly a good news. I think we're going to continue to see the economy rebound. This president knows how to do that.
Well, he sure did. He did it magnificently before.
Yeah.
He's already gotten a head start in doing it now. The numbers, those first group of numbers on employment were unbelievable.
You're right.
I mean, they were predicting, what was it, 8 million, 9 million
loss.
It was a 2 million gain, 2.5 million gain.
They were only wrong by a swing.
They were only wrong by 10 million.
Yeah.
But no apology.
Yeah. No, and listen, I'm not Pollyanna enough to believe that there are not going to be rocky roads ahead, but I can say this, that based on the numbers and the indicators I'm seeing, I'm very optimistic that we're going to have a great third quarter leading to an outstanding fourth quarter and an economy that gets back to be more prosperous than where we were before this happened.
Well, we need somebody fighting for it because the left wing, there's no doubt in my mind, I don't know if you can say this is a campaign to defeat him. They've used the pandemic as a campaign to defeat him. They want to prolong the shutdown and do as much damage to the economy as possible. Hard to believe that.
Yeah. So let me put on my personal hat instead of my chief of staff
Yeah,
hat,
I like
and I'm
that.
going to comment on that because
Please.
because this is all political. It's exactly what it is. The Democrats are using this political narrative in trying to get Joe Biden in the Oval Office, who has done nothing but talk for 40 years. The great thing is I want him to run on his record for the last 40 years. Why? Because there's nothing there.
But are you sure he'll leave the basement and go to the Oval Office?
No, he hasn't. I mean,
I don't know. They're going to have to work on him to
well,
get him
you
out
know,
of that
just
basement.
on the
He came out
just
the other day. It looked awful.
He came out, but he had a teleprompter. You know,
he
even when he
stumbled a
had
few times
the
anyway.
questions. So when we see it, but so back to your point on politics, there is such hatred for this president in this city, in Washington, D.C., that even some that should be allies of the president are not allies because they're seeing it as a grasp for power. And what happens is they see that power is being taken away from them and given to its rightful owner, which is we the people, which is the moms and dads and aunts and uncles and kids and grandkids on Main Street. That's who should have the power. This president knows that. And
he's taking it right away from the elite, the people who've been profiting.
Yeah.
The people who have the power, they either want to make money or they want to feel important. They certainly want to feel like they're more intelligent than everybody else. All of us dummies.
Well, they'll remind us of that.
All of us dummies. We're all really dumb, and they're really
thing.
smart. Joe is really smart because he was last in his law school class. He plagiarized 3 times. I know Joe for 35 years. I considered him one of the dumbest people in the Senate. And now he's cognitively impaired. I mean, he was stupid before, and now he's cognitively impaired.
Well, and what we see, though, the interesting thing is what we see is the machine around Joe Biden. Again, speaking from my personal capacity, the machine that we've got around is trying to make the American people believe something that with their own eyes and with their own ears, they know is not the case. And I mean, and yet they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to do that.
It's the ultimate cynicism.
Yeah.
And really just not caring about the United States to run somebody that appears to be as cognitively impaired as he is.
Yeah,
no matter what party
scary.
you are.
No, it's scary. And I mean, and so whether it's where Joe Biden is today or where he was a decade ago or 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago, here's what we do know is he's a product of the swamp. He's not, if you could name one thing that Joe Biden has done in terms of legislatively, a hallmark example, no one can do that.
I can name one.
Oh, what's that?
The 1994 criminal justice bill that he was significantly
right.
involved in with me.
You're right.
And with Chuck Schumer, that they've turned their back on.
Yeah, you're right.
And actually, the people that the president had to get out of jail who were put there for soft crimes, of course, of his legislation.
So what you're saying is we got to go back 26 years to find an accomplishment for Joe Biden.
But he's now disavowed it.
You're right.
He's
gone the other way. And here's the interesting thing is, as America's mayor and as someone who is so pro-law enforcement as you are and as the president is, to see Joe Biden turn his back on law enforcement, regardless of party affiliation, he's turning his back on every law enforcement officer, man or woman, across the nation. And I just say shame on him.
This would be a convenient time to take a short break. A good security system makes a family feel even more secure at home. Simply Safe does just that. It creates a secure home, and it's simple to operate. Simply Safe reinvented the home security industry years ago when they introduced a wireless system using Wi-Fi signals instead of running wires all throughout your house. That eliminates the need and expense for an installation crew. Simply Safe delivers you a pre-tested, pre-configured set of components that are easy to install. If you can remove crack and peel tape, you can install the system in less than 1 hour. 3 million families and counting in America rely on Simply Safe. Your doors and windows and rooms of your home will all be protected by the sensors and motion detectors. There's sound sensors and HD camera components as well. All of those parts are connected with wireless signals within your home, and once they're connected, you can activate Simply Safe's 24/7 monitoring service. All of that costs you just $14.99 a month with no contract to sign. That connects your system with the local police department for a fast response in the event of a home intrusion. It works in houses, condos, and apartments like mine. SimplySafe.com/Rudy is the site. You'll get a 60-day money-back guarantee and a free HD camera with your purchase. Just go to SimplySafe.com/Rudy and order it today. Don't wait. Thank you. Welcome back to our interview with Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff to the President of the United States. Well, I have to tell you, Chief, that in my city, which I know better than any other, it's just 4 weeks have destroyed 20 years of my hard work and Mike Bloomberg's hard work.
Yeah.
This progressive Democrat who had his honeymoon in Cuba, so you can figure out what he is.
Yeah.
We've had several days where we had one shooting per hour.
Yeah.
Where our murder rate is up 58%.
Right.
After 20 years of decline.
Wow.
Between Bloomberg and I took it down 60%.
Right.
He took it down another 75%.
Right.
We took down overall crime 80%.
Right.
I didn't think it was possible to get back so fast.
Right.
But when you get rid of your most effective unit in the police department, the anti-crime, got rid of them all. They're the people who take the guns out of the city.
Yeah.
He's defunded the police department by $1 billion.
$1 billion?
Including the anti-terrorism unit that I began and Bloomberg and Kelly really built. We're still the #1 target in America. He's done away with half of the anti-terrorism.
How could Mayor de Blasio and a progressive Democrat Party do that in a place where 9/11 happened, and all of us, you in particular, but me, a guy from North Carolina, I know exactly where I was on that morning.
It's a disgrace.
And at that particular point, I was from North Carolina, but I was identifying with New Yorkers that I would never meet because we got to see it in real time there, and yet here we are going backwards. I don't understand it. I really don't.
And now we've got crimes all over the city. Portions of the city that haven't had a shooting or a murder in 20 years have had several holdups all over the city. And it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Well, the mayor's on an apology tour.
Yeah.
That's what the mayor's on an apology tour, but not an apology tour to those public servants that sacrificially give up their time and their lives. You know, listen, they miss anniversaries, they miss ball games, they miss birthday parties to serve the people of New York or any city across the country, and yet we somehow have an apology tour and say that it is wrong to serve in that capacity. It's a sad day.
It's only the president, it seems to me, that has spoken out really strongly for the American way of life and American values that are now under attack.
Yeah.
This is no longer a protest about the tragic and unjustified murder of Mr. Floyd. Long ago it changed from that. Now it very often turns violent.
Right.
And it always turns on hatred of the United States.
It does.
Either on our history, our heroes, our religions, our Constitution, our laws. The United States is under attack, and they're trying to engender hatred. Why do you burn our flag if you don't hate us?
Yeah.
I mean, why do you dishonor our national anthem?
Yeah. Well,
except you want to engender, the way Marxists do, hatred for the country so they can substitute socialism for it.
Well, it's interesting you say that because it does have a Marxist and a socialist root. And how do we know that? Go talk to some Cuban Americans in South Florida. Go talk to some folks from Venezuela where they see that socialism is not the answer. You know, it starts with a great theme and then you end up saying, are there enough rabbits here to feed our country?
Right.
I mean, it's gotten to a point, you ask those kind of people that have really gone away and fled from Venezuela or Cuba, and they know what America is all about and freedom, and they're some of the most patriotic citizens that we have, and yet here's what happens. We try to change the course of history, redefine it, and act like it doesn't matter, and it does matter. We have to understand that there's something unique about this country something unique and special about how God has blessed this country, and we've got to stick with that.
God bless you, Mark, because
Yeah.
that needs to be said. And
Yeah.
it seems to me, I'm probably wrong, but the only one saying it is President Trump.
It is.
The only one standing up for the American way of life,
Yeah.
American values, American laws, is the president. I mean, they desecrate statues of Lincoln, and Grant won the Civil War.
I mean, for goodness sakes.
What could you do more than Grant did?
It's either they're ignorant of history or they're not ignorant of history and they hate everything about America. Because it has to be one of the two. And many times you're right, it's both. But if you look at this president, you know, one of my favorite pictures of him is when he comes out and he hugs the American flag. You know, the reason...
And they hate that.
And they hate that.
But I love it.
He hugs the American flag and he talks about America first, and you know what? We should celebrate that, not be apologizing for that.
Well, with the 4th of July coming up, we
Yeah.
darn well better be celebrating it.
Yeah, you're
We better
right.
be celebrating the document written by Thomas Jefferson.
You're right. You're exactly right.
And
You're
John
so
Adams
right.
gave it to him because he said, if he writes it, it'll be immortal.
Well, and it has
And it was
been.
immortal, and it gave us our guiding light. He
Yeah.
may have been an imperfect man,
Right.
but he
Well,
had dreams.
I got a news flash. Everyone is imperfect.
Yeah,
you know,
only one
and-
man
Yeah,
wasn't.
that's right. That's exactly right.
But they all
Yeah.
think they're,
Oh, they do, especially in this town. I mean, they think that they're so perfect that they're
And we're
real easy
we're
to
deplorables.
point at. Yeah, we're the deplorables.
so Hillary
the good
thought
thing
half,
is we may be deplorable, but we're definitely redeemable.
well, Hillary thought that half of us were deplorable, and I think Biden thinks 15% of us are very bad.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
the
very bad.
15%. Yeah,
But
so
he
he's-
doesn't, he
yeah,
can't do percentages anymore.
Yeah, well, here's the thing is he would have a hard time identifying that 15%. You know, if you put him on Main Street and said, well, which one's good, which one's bad, you know, he thinks that just because he happens to have somebody voting for him or running his campaign, they're good. It doesn't work out that
So,
way.
Mark, I want to ask you this. I've been
Yeah.
afraid to ask the president this.
Yeah.
Would you be willing, if push came to shove, that the president go debate Biden in the basement?
Listen, I'm willing for the president to debate Biden anywhere. I'll take odds on that, on who's going
So
to
you
win.
think he's going to really debate, or are you going to
You know,
try to weasel
I
out of it?
think they're going to try to weasel out of it. Here's the thing is that Biden, if he needs a teleprompter to do a Q&A from a day or two ago, he's going to need a lot more preparation for debates. But here's what I do know. Let's put Joe Biden's record up against the president's record, 40 years versus 4 years. The president will take him to task on each and every option. I'd love to debate every single day. And when you see that,
No, actually,
the choice is clear.
I offered them 6 or 7 debates.
No,
I thought they were going to faint.
I love it.
And then
Well,
another
that's
point,
when the sweat breaks out on their brow.
I didn't even clear
Yeah.
this one. I said, how about we go 3 hours?
I love it. Well, listen,
I'll have a
you know
respirator.
the president. He can take it.
We've got a lot of excess respirators.
Well, here's the other thing I would say, Mayor, is there is no one who will work harder on behalf of the American people than this president. You've seen it. I've seen it. He works through the night. He works in the wee hours of the morning. He's constantly reading stuff and giving me tasks. I mean, to the point where he can come up with more ideas than I can implement in any given day. And yet, the goal is always the same. What do we do for the mom and dad, the single mom, the single dad, the kid on Main Street? What do we do for them to make their life better? And most of the people in this town, they want to know what Washington, D.C. will do for them. And the president has articulated he wants to be in Washington, D.C. for what he can do for others. And that's is a big difference.
Well, I actually only worked for one president, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And I see numerous similarities between the two.
I do too.
But
I do too.
2 of them are, Ronald Reagan was always underestimated.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he was too dumb for the job.
Yeah.
I wrote a speech for him. He rewrote the whole thing, and it was better written than all the reporters of the New York Times could write. And just
Wow.
read his love letters to his wife, and you can see what
Oh,
a great
yeah.
writer he was. This was
Yeah.
a very intelligent man. Same
Yeah.
thing with President Trump. This
Yeah.
is a very shrewd, very intelligent man who, and the second thing is, I haven't seen 2 presidents in my lifetime that love America as
More.
much as the 2 of them,
I agree.
and are willing to express it.
Yeah.
You need to express it.
Yeah.
That's how you keep a country together.
Yeah. Well, you had the privilege of working for Ronald Reagan. I had the privilege of working for Donald Trump. I can tell you this, that Donald Trump takes things so personally and wants to make sure that good things are applauded. When no one's paying attention, he'll pick up the phone and he'll call somebody and say, hey, I just want to tell you, good job. I want to tell you that you're right on this particular issue. He does it every single day. And if people understood how much he personally cares, he would win all 50 states.
So let me conclude with putting your political hat back on.
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
So how does he win the election?
Yeah, so...
what's the path from here to a victory, which is now...
again, putting my personal hat back on, because I don't want to violate any federal law.
In my humble view, America's at stake.
It is at stake.
Just look at what's happening in our streets.
Yeah.
Just look at what they're doing to our country, what they're doing to our history, our educational system.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want to say what would be possible if he doesn't win.
So here's how he wins. He doesn't talk about the major accomplishments of the last 3.5 to 4 years, although there are many, and you could make you don't talk about that. Because most people...
It could be the greatest first term
ever. It is the greatest first term ever, without a doubt. It is the greatest. But you don't talk about what we've done. Now, you use that as a foundation of what you will do. And what you do is you talk about bringing jobs back from China, because China is a real threat. You talk about that. You talk about making sure that our communities are safe. We wouldn't have thought that that was even important. When you came in as mayor of New York, you had to address it. Now it's a big issue.
A year ago, I wouldn't have thought that at all.
No, but you have to make sure that they understand that we're not going to sit back and watch our statues be toppled. We're not going to watch autonomous zones in the middle of businesses, because here's the problem is, when you do that, when you allow those rioters to go in, they're taking away the rights of business people and peaceful protesters at the same time. Because what happens is they need to be held accountable. And the last thing I think you see is a president who's willing to do bold things that no one else has ever done. He will lower prescription drug prices. He's already working on it. He will do that before the November election. You will see drug prices come down. They've already stopped with the monumental increase, but you'll actually see them come down, and you'll see him set out a bold agenda that people, in 2016, they said, well, gosh, if he could accomplish one or two things,
right.
That would be, he's done exponentially better than that.
Better than I thought.
Well,
and I've been his friend for 29 years.
Listen.
I thought he'd be a really good president.
Yeah.
I'm now starting to think he's one of our great ones, and maybe our best. I don't know.
He is not afraid to tackle what everybody else is afraid to tackle politically. And that's the difference in him. He's willing to take a political risk to do what he said he would do on the campaign trail, and he'll do it again.
Well, Mark, I have to tell you, just as an American, it makes me feel really good that you're here, because I know all the things you did
in
very Congress
kind.
and how
you're very kind.
How loyal you were, not to the president, but to the law,
right,
and the Constitution.
And the Constitution.
Because you saw something terrible going on.
Yeah.
Well, you were strong enough to stand up, and some of your colleagues were, and some weren't. And you were a real hero.
Well, here's the thing: is when you stand up for the Constitution, and when you stand up for the forgotten man or woman, it sides you with this president.
Yes.
And
I can see that.
And when it sides you with this president, you're willing to get up, no matter the personal cost. You're willing to go out and fight again, and that's why in less than 125 days, this president will get reelected, because of guys like you, and guys that are willing to truly fight the fight. So my message, to America, the people that are tuning in right now, is do not give up hope on the greatest experiment that has ever happened in loving this country, and truly embracing the flag, and being patriotic, and knowing that you have a president who's willing to fight alongside you. So that would be my message.
Happy 4th of July.
Same to you. Thanks so much.